Well, I want to get onto something here because, this might be another angle that nobody else is saying, and it's called squeezing out the competition. What we have with the silver miners, obviously, what's going on at these prices now, you're definitely hurting them. You're definitely hurting them big time. I don't know exactly what the operating costs are in the mines. Sometimes they throw that word around, cash cost, which is BS. They don't use that term in accounting, cash cost, but they cost operating costs. But right now, they've got to be getting damn well, or a lot of them are operating at a loss with these kind of commodity prices, even though the price of oil is going down, and that's lowering their operating costs. So I'm going to put it to you like this. This picture of Al Capone, right, from the days. And just what we got going on here is the same old kind of game that's been going on from the time of John D. Rockefeller, squeezing out the competition. Squeezing out the competition. And you know who's flush with cash? Who's flush with cash? All the big New York mega banks, they're flush with cash. You know what they can do? They can drive a lot of the miners out of business, and guess what they would do? Buy them up for pennies on a dollar. And that's just what they've always been doing, hasn't it? Hasn't it been what they've been doing all along with the oil companies? How do you think Standard Oil got so big? What happened with the Cleveland, Ohio scandal? What happened even with the farms? Why do you think most of the farms today are under just a few big corporations? They bought out all the small farmers. So by them driving down the prices, it's doing some things, other things too. They could take over the entire mining industry in one fell swoop, or most of it. And then when they do that, they can drive the prices up because it's in their interest to drive them up and drive them up a lot higher. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Something else I perceive, too, besides them lowering oil prices to basically put the squeeze on Putin and Russia. Now, I don't want to paint too much of a picture that the USA is gangsters. Russia, the whole state is gangsters, man. The whole state. Putin is gangster all the way to the max. I'll guarantee you that. But they're putting a squeeze on him because what's going on is he can't freaking help Syria and he can't help Iran because even now they got it where the finance ministers actually said they got to cut back on the defense budget in Russia and all the stuff that Putin signed off on they can no longer afford. But here's the other deal. You see, I think they're driving the prices down to knock out the competition. Saudi's not doing this stuff. Saudis are basically vassal. They do what we tell them to do. Saudi's not working against Russia. It's the U.S. that's running this thing. It's actually the U.S. elite. And they're not doing any help for the middle class. What's going to happen in the long run, and this is what they got planned, I think, after they knock down the other countries like really bad and say they move into Venezuela because so the interests are going under, and they get a slice of something, they need cash, and a dollar's strong, and they can come in there and buy up all kinds of foreign oil companies or get enough shares and enough interest in it to take over production. So guess what happens then? Once that is accomplished, and say the big guys are moved in there, they're not just talking about U.S. oil production, but since the U.S. dollar is strong throughout the world and other currencies are going down, they could buy up all the other oil around in the world. They can get it in everywhere. Even Putin's going to have to make a deal. What's going to happen? What's going to happen with Rosneft? What's going to happen with iGas? They're going to be hurting. They're going to be hurting. And their ruble's going down. They might be needing cash, and there's going to be deal makers coming in there. Hey, we got a deal for you. We got a deal for you. Then what I think is going to happen is eventually you're going to see in the planning, and I'm showing Chicago Mobsters here, but basically New York is the king. Chicago's not the king. New York is the king. It is the capital of the financial world. I don't even think it's not London. It's New York. But what they're going to do is when oil is brought down, and even what could happen here is somebody else, smaller oil companies and small oil ventures can go under by bringing that down. And guess what they'll do? They'll buy them up. They'll buy them up. Then when the oil export we have laws that say we can't export much oil from the United States, or pretty much no oil from the United States except under certain criteria. They're going to lift that. And when they lift that, that's when you're going to see all hell break loose in the Middle East, and you're going to see the mutual destruction of Saudi, Iraq, and Iran, and maybe even Israel too, because I think the devils they got it in for Israel too. A lot of people think it's all the Jews and everything doing it. I'm telling you right now, when Gaddafi was ousted in Libya, you know who the big benefactors were? It wasn't the British, it wasn't the USA, it was the Italians. It was Italian companies that got in there. I know this, man. I know this for a fact. I knew this when it came about, and I knew part of some of the stuff that Gaddafi said about converting Italian women to Islam. Didn't like that. Didn't like that. So, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on, but it wasn't just them. But it's kind of a hidden secret that they were the biggest benefactors gone. But, when you look at the Club of Rome is called that for a reason. Even though Bill Clinton is in it and you got Jimmy Carter in it, they invite those kind of people because they want them in there to influence them. And they want them as little puppets to go around and do their bidding. They're not the inner circle. Definitely not. So I think eventually what's going to happen, and it's not going to be no 10, 20 years from now, you're going to see the price of oil get jacked up to freaking astronomical heights. Now, eventually it'll come back down again. But, by the time that happens, the next major commodity they're going to be into? Water. They're not even going to let you collect rainwater if you allow them. But the problem is nobody's got the balls to meet them head on right at the freaking, point. And actually, I got more respect for the Chicago type or New York type gangsters than I ever do for the banksters all the way. Because, you hear about this, it's a big Hollywood production and stuff. But the ones that are in the shadows, like this, they got the hats and they ain't showing their face. They're the Wall Street bastards. They're the ones that don't get their hands dirty. Those are the ones that are suits, and they got the computers and stuff to drive, the bots to trade with each other to bring these prices down. But they got a plan. The dollar's strong as all hell, and they're flush with cash. Not only can they buy up oil companies and oil interests in the United States and mining companies, but they could do this throughout the world. And once they take that over, or they got a piece of that pie over someplace in other countries, you'll see the price of commodities go way up. And the big green light is going to be around the time when the U.S. is allowed carte blanche to export all the oil in the world they want, and they're the number one producers in the world. It's going to be pretty soon. It's going to be pretty soon, probably. And I'm going to tell you this, too. George Soros got a 16% of his net wealth, and he's going to lose. He's not going to lose all of it this year. He's part of it this year if the markets don't come down. But if they don't come down really hard in the next year, he's going to lose 16% of his net wealth. Warren Buffett himself is staying out of the markets, and he's losing $29 million a day in interest and dividends by staying out of the markets. The markets can come down real fast. Usually what happens is the commodities do hit the down button first, then the markets. But I'm going to tell you this. I thought they hit the down button before, man. I was like, holy shit, it's been freaking way down there. But this may be the final freaking dip. And guess what? When this is going to precede this commodities down dip is also, and we also seen a lot of correlation between the December 2007, 2008 time frame, and also 2000 and 1987 and 1929 and 1973, where the markets have made the same type of pattern as they are now. Just hang on, man. It sounds stupid right now because everything's, coming to part with silver and oil and gold. But there's a plan. There's a plan to it. And when Wall Street takes over all those things, they take over everything. They say, hey, man, we own it. We own it. We own it. We bought it up cheap. They went under. And Jimmy Rogers wants you silver because he wants you to get despondent. He wants you to get despondent, and he says, that's why I'm going to buy it. When they take it over, then it's going to be in their interest when they take over all the mines and they take over other oil interests in other countries and stuff. Then it's going to be in their interest to drive the prices way the hell up, and they're going to put the squeeze on the middle class left and right. Now, I got other videos I'm doing. I'm starting to do some on HHO because I kind of see what's coming up. And I can't figure every damn detail, but I do understand what could possibly very well be what's going on right now. And these guys are ruthless, man. They're ruthless. And, you know, there's no problem with that as far as I'm concerned. I realize what the game is. And just hang on. Just hang on. Because what's going to happen in the long run, you know what happened to this guy, right? He was on top of the world, right? He was on top of the world. And, you know, I got more respect for Al Capone than I do have the weasels in Wall Street, to tell you the truth. But let me put it to you this way. The game is going to be up when the middle class rolls up their sleeves and goes back to square one, 101, hands-on work, and you just don't need their damn money. You just don't need their money. You don't need anything they got. You don't need anything from them. You defend your own country. You do your own stuff. You grow your own crops. You freaking got your free energy, and you build your own stuff. And guess what? You don't need these clowns for nothing. You don't need none of them. You don't need none of them. And that's really what it's going to have to come down to. It's not going to be no lounge chair stuff. It's going to have to be roll up your sleeves and do it on your own. But I can see what their game is. They're bringing down the commodities because they're going to take over the mines. They're going to take over the foreign oil interests. And they're going to also, when that happens, they're going to lift the restrictions on exporting oil. And you just can't wait for that to happen, man. Once they lift the exports on oil in the U.S., and the U.S. is near #1 production in the world, and the Wall Street has their fingers in on the Russian oil again, and Iraqi oil and everything else, and Venezuela oil and everything else, they're going to rake the freaking middle class over the coals. But you know what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be running HHO and solar. So anyway, just want to tell you, they probably got a real game plan with this deal. It's not going to be a forever game. It's in their financial interest to drive the markets up when they take over the mines that went under because of this freaking low price, and when they take over other foreign oil and they lift the exports, the restrictions on exports of oil, you will see commodities go through the roof because it'll be the interest of Wall Street to allow it to do so. So there you go, man. There you go. They're always thinking, and so am I.